Hello and welcome back to another card making video. Today we will be creating this fun interactive card using the Reveal Wheel die set paired with the Yeti or Not stamp set from Fawn. The first thing I need to do is apply my Distressed Snowfall Grit Paste to my snowbanks since the paste will need time to dry. Off screen, I did cut out my snowbanks using the Stitch Hillside border from Fawn, and I lined up my Reveal Wheel die to get the stitches to line up both on the left, right, and bottom of the snowbanks. That way there is a continuous stitch line on my card. When applying the grit paste, you want to make sure you pat down or dab the paste on the snowbank so that way you get the snowy texture. I don't need a ton of paste, so I will only scoop a little bit of the paste on the tip of my palette knife. And when I'm done with the grit paste, I will reseal the jar with my press and seal to help preserve the product. Once I'm done dabbing my grit paste, I will go ahead and set both snowbanks off to the side to dry. Now I will move on to ink blending my background. I will be ink blending my background in the colors Tumbled Glass, Broken China, Uncharted Mariner, and Prized Ribbon. Using a blending brush, I will lay down my first color, Tumbled Glass, and I am ink blending on top of my Waffle Flower stencil mat. I don't need to ink blend the bottom of the panel since our snowbanks will cover that area. Now I'm going to come in with the color Broken China, and I'm going to ink blend around the top edges of my card, making sure to not completely cover up the tumbled glass. I really want to create depth on my card, so by ink blending the edges in a darker color and a darker shade will allow me to bring that depth into my card. So now that I've applied the Broken China, I'm going to come back in with my Tumbled Glass to help smooth out those transition lines. Once I'm happy with the blend, I will bring in Uncharted Mariner, and I will blend the Uncharted Mariner into the Broken China. And I will continue the ink blending process as I have with the other two colors. I really enjoy ink blending with my Distress Oxide ink pads. The oxides are dye and pigment ink fusion that is very forgiving when ink blending. So if you struggle with ink blending, I would highly recommend picking up a few colors to practice with. So once I'm done with my Uncharted Mariner, I will come in with my Prized Ribbon to really deepen my edges. And then after I'm done with the Prized Ribbon, I will come back in with all my colors to really smooth out my transition lines. Once I am happy with my ink blending, I will emboss my Reveal Wheel with the Simon Says Stamp Filigree Snowflakes embossing folder. So you'll notice the folder has a really large snowflake in the upper right hand corner, and I did not want that on the upper portion of my panel. I actually wanted the smaller snowflakes to be in my sky, so I'm actually going to turn my folder upside down and cover up the larger snowflake with my snowbanks. Off screen, I did cut out two wheels and adhered them together using my Gina K Designs Connect liquid adhesive. I did this just for some added stability. I feel one layer was kind of flimsy, but it's personal preference. So Lawn Fawn does have templates to help line up your sentiments or images, whatever you want shown in the window of your reveal wheel. I highly recommend picking up some of these templates as it makes this part so much easier than trying to line them up without the template. Lawn Fawn does have a few videos showing how to stamp without the templates, but again, I would highly recommend picking a couple up. Using low-tack tape, I will adhere the template to my wheel, and I will be using the Say What Christmas Critter stamp set from Lawn Fawn and picking out 3 sayings from that stamp set to heat emboss on my wheel. Since we are heat embossing, you want to make sure to prep your cardstock with an anti-static powder tool before applying your clear sticky ink. I use Versamark, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sayings using an acrylic block. You could use your Misti, but I found it to be faster and easier just to freehand stamp. I want to frame my windows, so I will be using the Reveal Wheel Speech Bubble add-on, and I'm going to adhere the frame using my Gina K Designs Connect liquid adhesive and a fine tip applicator bottle. Next, it's time to work on my images. So off screen, I colored my images using Copic markers. I also heat embossed my images in black embossing powder, and I will list the Copic colors that I used down in the description box below, along with a list of the products that I used. After cutting out my images using the coordinating die set, I'm going to dress up my Yetis, and I will save the other images for when it's time to assemble my scene. Now that the grit paste has had some time to dry, I will be adding some color to the snowbanks in the colors Tumbled Glass and Milled Lavender. Both are very soft colors that I felt would not overpower my scene, but just add a pop of color to my snowbanks. You could leave the snow white, but I liked adding the color and I thought it paired nicely with the added texture. I also really liked how the milled lavender blended into the tumbled glass. Blending them together created a very pretty blue, but again, you could skip this step to save some time. As I ink blend the 2 hills, I will line up the smaller snowy hill against the larger hill to make sure my blending is visible on the hill that will be in the background, but it's low enough to still have some white showing. Now it is time to work on adhering my wheel to the card base. To do this, you will need to cut out the smaller circle included with the Reveal Wheel die set. This is an important piece since this is where your adhesive will go. You don't want to add adhesive to the wheel since that is the interactive portion of the card. If you add glue to the wheel, it will no longer rotate. You will also need a mini brad to join the 2 pieces together. I ran out of mini brads, so I used the next size up and it worked, but I would recommend using the minis. I will be using the iCraft 3D foam squares, and I will need to cut the squares in half since they were too big to fit on the smaller circle. Make sure to not add the foam square to the brad, otherwise the brad will not spin. Make sure to test your mechanism before adhering it to your panel, making sure that everything spins freely. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my snowbanks to my front panel. I'm going to adhere the larger snow hill using liquid adhesive, and then for the front snowy hill I will add my foam tape for added dimension. I will add liquid adhesive to my foam tape before applying the hill. This allows for any wiggle room so I can make sure everything lines up perfectly. Before adhering the wheel, I will need to line up the wheel with the frame of my card. When you die cut the wheel, it also embossed a circle shown here that is a guide to help line up the wheel to the frame. I will remove the backing to my 3D foam squares, and I'm going to add liquid adhesive to the 3D foam squares to make sure I have some wiggle room, as this can be a little tricky to lay down. Again, I'm going to line up my wheel and temporarily adhere it down with some low tack tape. Remember, we're only adhering the wheel down and not the front panel. We're only temporarily adhering it to the front panel as a guide to make sure we can center everything on our card base. For the card front, you will need to use foam tape to pop up the front of your card. Remember, we used foam tape on the wheel, so you'll need to make sure to add foam tape to the front panel, but also leave enough room for the wheel. You want to basically frame your panel like you would if you were to make a shaker card. I like to apply a double layer of foam tape, but you don't need to. I just find it easier to turn the wheel when I double up on my foam. Before I glue all my images down, I like to lay them out first. Once I'm happy with the placement of my images, I will glue them down using liquid glue. As you know, I love my Connect glue from Gina Designs, and that's what I will be using to adhere all my images. I'm also using my reverse tweezers to help me place all the images on my front panel. Do keep in mind we have texture on our card, so gluing down the Yetis and I guess you would call it the swoosh from the Yeti that's snowboarding, it'll be a little tricky. So you'll need to hold the images down a little longer than you normally would to make sure it makes good contact. I like to use an acrylic block or even my reverse tweezers for those tricky situations. I also cut out an arrow from the die set to let the recipient know to spin the wheel. And now that I like how everything is placed, I'm going to glue everything down. And look how cute this turned out. I love everything about this card. I love interactive cards. I love spinning the wheel and seeing the different sentiments. And to finish off the card, I'm not going to add any bling, but I will add some shimmer using my Spectrum Noir glitter pen. I'm going to add that to different areas of the card to really give it that shine that it needs. It's hard to show the glitter on camera. I'm going to try to hold it up. I turned on a light to see if you can see it. And look at all that shine. How cute are these images? I love it. And that completes today's card project. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I would love for you to like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps. To all my existing subscribers, thank you so much for your continued support, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!